Good evening, traveler of the unknown, and welcome back to NightStoryHQ. You've returned again to the edge of myth and memory, to a place where shadows stretch long and whispers never quite fade. Tonight, the firelight flickers not from candle or hearth, but from something ancient, something stolen, something sacred. It's the fire of defiance, the fire of sacrifice, the fire of a god who stood against all others. For us, this is the story of Prometheus, a titan, a rebel, a savior, and the eternal prisoner of Olympus. But don't expect a bedtime tale. No, this one is carved into the bones of humanity itself, fierce, fiery, and tragic, the kind of story that haunts you long after it ends. So settle in, breathe slowly, let your room dim, and let the voice of myth rise through the smoke and silence. Because to understand the price of fire, we must go back to the beginning. Far, far back. Before there were cities, before the earth was divided by kings and nations, before men could write or speak or dream beyond survival, there was chaos. And from chaos, there were titans. Not gods, not yet, but something older, larger, primordial. Titans were not born, they were formed, wrought from the bones of the earth and the breath of the cosmos. Time, space, fire, memory. They were the raw elements of creation made flesh. And Prometheus was one of them. But unlike his brethren, Prometheus didn't thirst for power. He didn't seek to conquer or crush. He watched, he thought. He saw the pieces behind the world's puzzle. And more than that, he saw a future, a better one. They called him forethought. That was his gift. Where others saw what was, he saw what could be. When the war between the Titans and the Olympians broke the sky in two, Prometheus did something unthinkable. He switched sides. He betrayed his own kind and joined the younger gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, those fiery upstarts who would become rulers of the heavens. He taught them strategy. He gave them insight. With his help, the Olympians overthrew the Titans, locked them in the darkest pit of existence, Tartarus, and seized the throne of the cosmos. And Prometheus watched. But his heart was not with Olympus, because when the gods claimed victory, they turned their eyes downward, to the mortals, to us. Humans in those early days were little more than crude clay and breath, shapeless things, weak, confused, fumbling in a world that didn't want them. To the gods, humans were jokes, creatures meant to worship or perish, but never to thrive. Zeus especially hated them. He saw them as insects, temporary, a mistake in the grand design. And when Prometheus tried to speak on their behalf, Zeus warned him, "Let them suffer. Let them die. They do not belong among fire and stars." But Prometheus remembered. He remembered what it was like to see from the outside, to be a creature of vision, surrounded by beasts of impulse. He saw something divine in mortals, not in their power, but in their potential. And so, he made a choice, a dangerous one, a choice that would light the world and curse him forever. Prometheus climbed the heights of Olympus in secret, past marble halls and golden thrones, past feasts of ambrosia and music sung by sirens. He descended into the forge of Hephaestus, where flames roared without end and sparks danced like stars. There, he stole fire, not just literal flame, though he took that too. What he stole was knowledge, heat, energy, invention, the secret to shaping the world, not just surviving in it, the key to civilization itself. He placed that fire in a hollow stalk of fennel and carried it through the night like a thief of light. Down he came, through cloud and storm, to the earth where humans trembled in the cold, and he gave it to them. Can you imagine the first moment? When the first campfire crackled to life, when warmth pushed back the dark, when sparks flew from rock and wood, and men and women huddled together, wide-eyed and awestruck. That flame was more than survival. It was memory. It was power. It was destiny. It meant cooking, crafting, metallurgy, community. It meant stories told at night. It meant dreaming. Prometheus gave humans the power to imagine a world different from the one they were born into. And Zeus lost his mind. Thunder roared. Storms shattered mountaintops. The skies bled lightning. Zeus summoned the other gods, furious, trembling with betrayal. He had warned Prometheus. He had told him what the fire meant. And now, it was too late. Oh, mankind would never again be silent. So Zeus punished them. The humans, he gave them pain, labor, death, jealousy. And then, he turned his fury to the one who had defied him, Prometheus. But Zeus didn't want death. Oh no. He wanted a message. He wanted a warning, carved in living flesh. So Zeus decided not to kill Prometheus. No. Death would have been too merciful, too final. He wanted eternity. He wanted the world to look up at the mountains and remember what happens when you challenge the gods. And so he gave the order. Two figures, silent and monstrous, came to carry it out. Kratos and Bia. Strength and force. Not warriors, not thinkers, instruments. They found Prometheus, the firebringer, the rebel, the dreamer. And they dragged him across the earth, his bare feet scraping against the stone, his arms bound, his voice silent, not begging, never begging. They hauled him to the Caucasus Mountains, a jagged, cruel range that stabbed at the clouds, windswept and forgotten by time. There, on the highest cliff, they chained him. Forged links of unbreakable adamantine were wrapped around his wrists, his ankles, his chest. They pinned him to the rock like a symbol, a warning, a sacrifice. And then came the creature, the eagle. It was no ordinary bird. No, this was Zeus's own spawn, a great winged beast born from storm and punishment. Its wings cast shadows across valleys. Its beak could tear through mountains, and its eyes, they held no pity. Every single day the eagle came, and it fed. It tore into Prometheus's side, claws raking, beak digging, until it found what it sought, his liver. It devoured the organ while he remained fully conscious, screaming without sound, shaking against the chains but never breaking. And when the creature had had its fill, it would leave, only for the liver to grow back that night, and the nightmare to begin again, day after day, week after week, century after century. The pain never faded, the wounds never healed, the gods never relented. But neither did Prometheus. Through it all, through the agony, the loneliness, the unceasing torment, he did not apologize. He did not renounce his choice. He did not cry out for forgiveness, because the fire still burned below. He could feel it, rising. Humans were learning, building, growing, forging tools, crafting stories, chasing knowledge. They lit torches, then lanterns, then cities. And every flicker of flame, every spark struck from stone, every sunrise witnessed by a child, was proof that he had been right. And still, Zeus watched. He saw what the fire had done. He saw that mankind, once crawling, was now climbing. He saw ambition stir in their hearts, wars, inventions, music, madness, wonder. The gift of fire was also the gift of choice. It made mortals powerful and unpredictable. Zeus hated that, but he couldn't take it back. That's the truth behind this entire myth. The gods couldn't unlight the world. Once a flame is past, it lives on. So all Zeus could do was punish the one who had made it possible. And Prometheus, he endured it all. But he wasn't entirely alone. You see, there were others, whispers in the wind, who came to him during his long torture. a chorus of voices from the earth below, from the rivers and the woods, from the very essence of the world he had tried to elevate. Some say the Oceanids came, sea nymphs who pitied his pain. They wept for him, their songs carried by the breeze across the mountains. They asked him why. Why had he done it? And Prometheus would answer, not with anger, but with clarity. Because they were worth it. Even when they were weak, even when they were foolish, even when they were broken, humans were worth saving. Not because of what they were, but because of what they could become. He saw what the gods could not. He saw us. But there was one other who came to him, a mortal, or mostly mortal, a son of Zeus, ironically. Heracles, yes, that Heracles, the hero, the slayer of monsters, the breaker of chains. One day, as part of his many labors, Heracles climbed the Caucasus Range, up through frost and ice, across winds that could peel the flesh from your bones. And there he saw the chained figure, torn and bleeding, yet still alive, still breathing, still watching. And he knew this was Prometheus. Heracles did what few dared. He drew his bow. A single arrow, forged with the sacred flame, was loosed. It arced across the sky like a comet, and struck the eagle in its chest. The beast fell. Thunder did not roar. The skies did not open in fury. Only silence. And then Heracles approached the chained god. With his bare hands, he grasped the adamantine links, and he broke them. The sound was like the cracking of the world. Prometheus collapsed, free, after thousands of years. But freedom is not the same as peace. Zeus could not undo what had happened. Prometheus had suffered enough to satisfy divine wrath. But he was still a threat, a symbol, a fire that would not go out. So Zeus allowed him to live, but exiled. Prometheus would never again walk freely among men. He would not return to Olympus. He would remain on the fringes of myth, watching, and he does. To this day, some say Prometheus is still out there, somewhere at the edge of the world, or in the spaces between dreams, watching the fire he gave us burn brighter with each generation. When scientists harness energy, when artists set their souls alight on canvas or song, when a child holds a candle for the first time, Prometheus is there. His flame lives in us. And that's what Zeus never understood. You can punish a body. You can silence a voice. You can chain a titan to a mountain. But you cannot light the fire. There's something haunting about silence after pain, the stillness that follows centuries of screaming, the kind of quiet that feels earned, tainted. Prometheus was free, no longer bound by chains, no longer torn open each day by the beak of Zeus's eagle, no longer bleeding for the gift he gave. But there's a kind of wound that never shows, the one that settles into the soul, the one that doesn't need flesh to hurt. That was the wound Prometheus carried. He wasn't just punished, he was forgotten. Exiled to the edges of myth, far from Olympus, far from humanity, he became a whisper, a relic of an age before the age of men. While temples were built for Zeus, Poseidon, Apollo, Prometheus had no altars, no prayers, no offerings. The humans had moved on, and yet everything they were came from him. The warmth in their homes, the light in their lamps, the spark in their minds. Prometheus had given them more than survival. He had given them rebellion, curiosity, creation, all because he had believed in them, in us. That's what hurts, isn't it? When you suffer for someone, and they never even know. But maybe he didn't want temples. Maybe he didn't need his name etched in stone. Maybe he just wanted to watch the flame grow. And it did. Through the centuries, through empire and war and silence and song, humanity carried fire. We tamed it. We caged it. We turned it to engines, cities, towers of glass and steel. Fire fed industry, fire fed revolution, fire fed freedom. We even stole fire again, from atoms, from stars, from the fabric of the universe itself. But with every new blaze came danger. Prometheus's gift was never pure. It was never meant to be safe. It was power, and power always comes with a price. And here's the part that chills me even now. Prometheus knew this. He knew that humans would build and destroy, that they would heal and hurt, that they would invent miracles and horrors. He gave them fire anyway, because he believed in choice. The gods? They craved obedience, order, control. But Prometheus saw something different. He didn't want a race of perfect creatures, kneeling and grateful. He wanted flawed, fiery minds, beings who could become more than what they were, even if it meant chaos, even if it meant blood, even if it meant suffering. And that's what makes him different. Because most gods demand worship. Prometheus gave without asking anything in return. No glory, no praise, just pain. And still, he gave. That's the part that lingers with me. Not the chains, not the eagle, not even the mountain, but the silence. The fact that he bore it all, not for power or vengeance or some twisted cosmic game, but for hope. He saw a species crouched in the dark, cold and afraid, and thought, they deserve a chance. How many would do the same? How many would suffer forever for someone else's future? Prometheus did, and the gods hated him for it. But what's more frightening than a god? A god who believes in humanity. Because that's dangerous. That's fire. And fire doesn't stop. It spreads. Centuries passed, millennia even. The names of the gods faded into myth. Zeus, once feared, became a figure of stories, of statues crumbling under vines. Olympus fell silent. The marble cracked. The thunder stilled. But the fire lived on. Prometheus never returned to Olympus, nor to the courts of men. But that doesn't mean he disappeared. Some say he still walks the far edges of the earth, hidden in the mists of forgotten places, watching by flickering lantern light, his eyes burning like coals under a furrowed brow. Others say he exists inside us, not as flesh, not as deity, but as instinct. Every time someone dares to ask, why? Every time a child takes apart a clock just to see how it works. Every time an artist paints the night sky with nothing but imagination and color. Every time someone stands against injustice and says no more. That is Prometheus. Because fire is not just flame. It's a refusal to be blind. It's the courage to reach into darkness and bring something back. That was his real gift. The gods feared that, still do. Because if humans can make their own light, they don't need Olympus. They don't need permission. And they certainly don't need chains. But here's the thing they never expected. Fire spreads in silence. It doesn't need fanfare. It doesn't need trumpets. It passes hand to hand, spark to spark. From cave to city, from torch to satellite, from candle to screen. Look around. Your screen, your phone, the glowing cities at night, the machines that speak and think and hum. That's not just electricity. That's Prometheus. His liver may have grown back each day, but so did the consequences of his gift, for better and worse. Because the fire that warms your home can burn it down. The fire that gives you light can blind you. The fire that creates can consume. We live in the legacy of Prometheus, and it is beautiful and terrifying and messy, but it's ours. And sometimes I wonder, late at night, does he know? Wherever he is, does Prometheus see what we've become? Would he be proud? Would he be afraid? Or maybe he wouldn't be surprised at all. because he saw all this before anyone else did. That's what forethought means. He didn't give us fire because we deserved it. He gave it to us because we needed it, even if we weren't ready, even if we'd misuse it, even if we'd build bombs and screens and machines that learn, and weapons that wait in silence. He gave it anyway, because that's what belief looks like. Not hope, not blind faith, but choice. And maybe, just maybe, that's what separates a God from something greater. Sometimes, when I look at the world, the glowing grids of light from space, the steel towers cutting through the sky, the endless hum of technology in our ears, I wonder, is this what Prometheus saw? Is this the vision that burned behind his eyes when he first held that flicker of fire in the hollow stalk of fennel? Did he know what we would do with it? That we would rise, that we would stumble, that we would create wonders beyond Olympus, or monsters that even the gods would fear? We'll never know, because Prometheus doesn't speak anymore. He is silent, but not gone. He's in the quiet courage of the outcast, the mind that questions what others accept, the whistleblower who dares to speak, the scientist who pushes past what's forbidden, the artist who paints truth even when the world looks away. He's in the rebel who risks it all, and in the child who stares into the fire, not with fear, but with curiosity. Because at its core, Prometheus's story isn't about gods or punishment. It's about one soul, choosing pain over apathy. We see how sacrifice over silence. It's about choosing to light a match in a world that demands darkness. And that choice is never easy. There are always eagles. There are always chains. There is always a price. But if we learn anything from him, if we carry even one ember of his defiance, it should be this: the world only changes when someone dares to suffer for it, not for glory, not for reward, but because they see the flame before anyone else can, and they refuse to let it die. And maybe that's why his story still haunts us, because deep down, we know we are Prometheus. Every time we stand up, every time we reach forward, every time we choose to create instead of destroy, we carry the fire, and the gods still watch. But we are no longer cold, no longer silent, no longer in the dark, because someone once bled, screamed, and burned so that we could see. And even now, the fire still spreads. Thank you for walking through the shadows with me tonight. If this story stayed with you, even for a moment, if it made you think or feel or wonder, I invite you to stay a little longer. There are more stories waiting here, stories of fire and frost, of echoes and gods, of what we fear and what we are, right here at NightStoryHQ. Until next time, keep the fire alive and never stop reaching for the light.